What's up, y'all? It's your boy Jeremy from Randolph Running Club, and I'm back here again today, as you saw in that intro, to talk to you about the Skechers Razor Excess 2. So this is one of my first times ever running in a Skechers shoe, and have some thoughts about it. I think I have run approximately, 215 or it was about 220 miles or so in this shoe. So I've taken it on all kinds of different efforts, slow runs, faster paces. I've used it for some interval work, some long runs. It was the only shoe I took on an international trip with me, so it was kind of my daily trainer there for about 2 weeks while I was out of the country. So I have a ton of thoughts, and first and foremost, let's just get into kind of the specs of the shoe. These are all taken from runningwarehouse.com. The shoe has a lot of technology, pretty much everything that Skechers has, right? So it has the removable arch fit insole, has hyperburst cushioning, so the nitro infused cushioning from Skechers, Goodyear performance outsole rubber. It has Skechers Hyper Arc for an efficient run. I'm assuming that that's kind of like their geometry of the shoe. And then of course, just a mesh upper, kind of standard there. These shoes come in at 7.9 ounces in a US men's size 9, which translates to 223 grams. The heel stack is 34 millimeters and the forefoot stack is 30 millimeters for a 4 millimeter heel to toe offset. So this is kind of getting into that max cushion kind of realm of shoes as far as the stack height is concerned. So how exactly does it feel? How does it perform? Durability concerns, value, things of that nature. Let's get into it. Number one, I always like to start this off with just the comfort of the shoe. I think the really big thing here is just all around, it is a comfortable shoe. I want to start off by saying that. I find that the midsole feels pretty cushioned, being this nitro foam that has, kind of air infused into it. It feels cushioned, but not in the way that you would expect from that type of foam. I was kind of thinking of something more like the Puma DV8 Nitro, which I reviewed last year. That shoe I found to be really, really giving you that squishy sink-in feel, but it also had a lot of pop with the carbon plate. This shoe feels a little bit more like an Asics Nova Blast, but with a little bit less cushion, if that makes sense. So I think that's gonna be kind of the theme of this video. I'm gonna keep kind of comparing this shoe to a Nova Blast. But with that in mind, it feels good, especially for how lightweight that this shoe is. It's a decent amount of cushion. I just think with that much stack height, you're just kind of expecting a little bit more than what you're actually getting from the shoe. So there's that. But with that being said, I found the shoe to be very comfortable. The upper is extremely breathable. I wore these in Jamaica when it was, 95 degrees and 90% humidity, and I ran 12 miles in them, and my feet were not the issue during the run. It was everything else, right? So not a bad shoe, breathable upper, doesn't retain too much water. I think the biggest thing that I kind of didn't like about the upper, that mesh upper, is it kind of makes me think of like a Hoka Bondi or Hoka Rincon. I don't know if you guys have had any experience with those kind of shoes, but I always find that Hoka uppers, if I'm not wearing a really good pair of socks that are a little bit thicker, something really cushioned, I always end up getting hot spots on my big toe or something little toe, just the outsides of my foot where it's kind of rubbing there in the forefoot. And this shoe did the exact same thing to me. I actually still have a blister, and I haven't worn these shoes in a couple weeks now. From wearing them, where there was just some rubbing on my big toe against that upper, and I wasn't wearing the right socks that day. So keep that in mind. I don't have particularly wide feet, so this isn't a great option for you if you have a particularly wide foot. So that's kind of the other thing as far as comfort is concerned, but otherwise, no real complaints. I think these are all things that you can kind of work around. So now, number two, let's get into the versatility of the shoe. So when I'm talking about versatility, I mean, is this a shoe that you can wear for your easy runs? Is it something that you can wear for something a little bit more up-tempo, where you're picking up the pace? Can you wear it for a long run, etc., everything in between? I can tell you that 110%, yes, you can wear these shoes for all these different types of efforts. I had a really good experience wearing these for just kind of easy runs. My biggest gripe with them on easy runs was that nothing to do with the actual shoes cushioning level itself. My problem was because the shoe only weighs 7.9 ounces and it's lighter than most of the other things that I was running in at the time, aside from like racing flats, is the shoe always kind of beckoned me to pick up the pace and run a little bit faster. It was always just kind of like whispering in my ear and being like, come on man, today's not an easy day. Today could be whatever you want it to be. So I found myself kind of running a little faster than I intended to a lot of times on the easier runs. Which kind of, I guess, is good, right? In the sense that if this is your one and only shoe, you just kind of have to lock in and understand like, all right, this shoe is gonna kind of encourage me to speed up. So I know it can handle my fast days. I just need to be a bit more mindful when I'm taking it out on the easier efforts. So with that in mind, interval runs and things of that nature were great in this shoe. I did some hill work in them and I never felt like they were kind of slowing me down or robbing me of speed or anything. Just good shoe all around. I think the longest run that I took these on was about 18 miles and I didn't really have any issues there either. My knees and everything felt pretty good towards the end of those runs that were getting to the longer end of the spectrum there for me while I'm in this marathon training cycle for the Berlin Marathon. So with that being said, I think this is an extremely versatile shoe in the same way that like an Asics Nova Blast is really versatile. You probably won't want to race in it, but if it is your one and only shoe, this shoe wouldn't cause you that much distress if you did end up taking it out for a racing effort, especially in something like half marathon, 10K, something like that. Maybe you want something a little lighter or a little bit more nimble with less stack height in like a 5K, but I think you can get away with these shoes in a lot of situations for sure, and especially if you're traveling. So point number 3, I'm gonna talk about the durability of these shoes. I think, you know, pretty much everything that I said thus far was kind of patting these shoes on the back, big applause, you know, saying how I thought it was very versatile, very comfortable shoe. Durability was one place where I found these to kind of fall flat a little bit. I actually have like a peroneal tendon injury right now. I need to do an MRI this week and kind of figure out if it's like tendonitis or if it's like a tear or something worse. So stay tuned for that. Hopefully it's not too bad. But with that in mind, I found that these shoes kind of wore down kind of prematurely. I actually don't have them in front of me right now, but I'll take a shot so you can see here on this video on YouTube. But I found that the outsole, for how durable it was supposed to be with that Goodyear rubber, it just didn't really hold up like I thought. It's nothing like the Puma Grip outsole on Puma shoes, or you know, Asics has like the AHAR rubber, things like that. If you've ever worn like a Nike Pegasus and seen that waffle outsole, that stuff like never breaks down. But these shoes, I found that they started to get very smooth towards the end of my 200-ish miles with them. And I think it started to wear into a point where it was like wearing out towards the sides and causing my ankle to kind of like roll inwards and adding some factor of instability, which caused me to kind of slightly tweak my ankle and then I think also aggravate that tendon. So that's kind of a bummer. I would say the traction started to really smooth out. The rubber outsole started to smooth out pretty early on, before 100 miles, and definitely by like 150, 160 miles, it was really, really smooth. I never really had to take these out in inclement weather, rain, or anything like that. So I can't really speak to the traction, but I would imagine based on how they look that it would be like being on skates. Like these shoes, the outsole has not held up very well at all. And I wouldn't say that the midsole has compressed necessarily. It still feels okay, but it's definitely not giving me the same pop that it once did, especially at these over 200 miles. And I would say almost in the same way that like a Hoka Rincon kind of wears down at like the 150 mile mark. You notice there's a bit of a shift. This shoe really, if I had to pick a point, I would say about 150 miles, I started to think, it might be time for something else. I kept running in it because I wanted to get the shoe to 200 miles because of the next point that I'm gonna talk about. So durability wasn't extremely great, but I will say, you know, if you're expecting maybe 200-ish miles out of the shoe, that's not terrible. I just think for me, for the price that I paid, I would have expected a little bit more. And you know, your mileage may vary though. I'm a heavier guy, like 215-ish pounds or so. So if you're a lighter runner, you probably get more miles than I did personally. So next point, number 4, let's talk about the value of these shoes. So right now you can get these on Skechers website or Running Warehouse, various places like that, for about $145 before tax or shipping or anything. I think that's a pretty solid price for the performance of the shoe. But I do have to say that in the back of my mind, every time I put these on, all I could think was, Asics Nova Blast costs less than this and feels just as good, if not better in some situations. I probably would pick the Nova Blast over this if I really had to. And that shoe you can get for, I think, 130 or 120 bucks, something like that. It's cheaper, I know that. So that was always in the back of my mind. And then if you spend just a little bit more, you can have something like a Puma DV8 Nitro. The second version of that shoe is almost about to release. I think it just got announced today, actually. So point of the story, for like 15 bucks more, you can have a much nicer shoe, and for like $10 or $15 less, you can have a shoe that's on par and better in certain situations, which kind of makes me think this shoe's in no man's land. And you know, you also have to remember that at the end of the day, if you're a guy like me, you know, late 20s, you're thinking about wearing that Skechers S on the side of the shoe. That has a certain connotation, a certain stigma. Every time I put these shoes on, I was a little subconscious because it's Skechers, you know, and when people ask me what I'm running in at the time and I said the Skechers shoe, that always felt a little bit weird. Even though the shoe's great and it performed fine, people definitely associate that as kind of like a bargain shoe. It kind of makes me think of like Hyundai in the early 2000s, late 90s, where it was like clearly being regarded as kind of like a budget option or something like that. So I think that's the really big thing there. Just something to keep in mind, but I digress. So the value, it's okay. It's not great. Could do better. So let's talk about overall and would I buy this shoe again. Overall, I think it was a good, decent value. I thought that the performance of it was great. It was comfortable. It did everything that I set out for it to do when I bought the shoe. So I can't really fault it for that. I think the durability was a little bit low and the price is just okay. So I would say this is a shoe you can probably skip unless you really, really want to give Skechers a try and kind of see what Hyperburst is about, see if it works for you. I would say in my case, the shoe worked well until it didn't. Having an injury right now is not super fun, and maybe I would have got that in other shoes, but I was pretty much exclusively running in this when that occurred. So that's kind of a bummer for sure. But with that in mind, I definitely don't want to knock the shoe. I think it's not bad. If you can find it on sale or something, get a deal, I think that's really great. I just think, you know, for me personally, I prefer maybe a Puma Velocity Nitro or DV8 Nitro. I would prefer Asics Nova Blast as well. Honestly, Hoka Rincon was a better shoe in my opinion, and that was significantly cheaper than this as well. So, you know, you kind of, there's a lot of people who want to take your money in this running shoe game. So you kind of have to make an informed decision. I would say try these on, see how they feel, and just remember that the durability might not be so strong for you there. But that's kind of my thoughts. I don't think I'd buy this shoe again necessarily. It was kind of to satisfy a curiosity that I had with Skechers because I've heard good things and I'd never really tried them as an adult. So yeah, that's kind of my 2 cents there. Let me know if you've given these shoes a try in the comments or any other Skechers shoes. Maybe there's something else out there that'll change my opinion on these a bit. But definitely feel free, I'd love to chat with you there. If you like this video, you like this content, feel free to subscribe, leave a like, comment, etc. It only helps the channel. And as always, stay blessed, inspire others, and stay safe out there, y'all. I'll see you next time. Peace.